Never press 4 in this building. In Japan, we have an unlucky number. 4. We pronounce it sure, which is the same sound as the word for death. Because of that, some hospitals don't have a room 4. Some old apartment buildings skip 4 entirely and go from 3 to 5. When I moved to Tokyo for university, I thought that was just another old superstition. Then I rented an apartment in a building that didn't have a 4th floor. It was written right in the listing. 5-story building, no 4F. I actually thought it was kind of funny. You know what's less funny? Realizing that the elevator still knows exactly where the 4th floor is. It just pretends it doesn't. Until after midnight. My apartment was on the 3rd floor. The building itself wasn't special. Narrow, slightly yellow hallway. Tiny lobby with a row of mailboxes. Old elevator with a metal door that closed too slowly. The landlord was an older woman with a sharp bob haircut and a voice that always sounded like she was scolding someone. When she handed me the keys, she said the usual things about garbage days and noise after 10 p.m. Then, as I was about to leave, she added, "One more thing. The building has no 4th floor. If anyone tells you otherwise, don't listen. The elevator goes from 1 to 3, then to 5. That's all." I laughed awkwardly. Because 4 is unlucky? Her face didn't change. Because this building has no 4th floor, she repeated. For some reason. That felt different from her saying, there is no 4F. Like she was insisting. Not explaining. The elevator panel had buttons for B1, 1, 2, 3, 5, and our roof. Where 4 should have been, there was just a blank metal plate. It didn't bother me at first. City life kept me busy. Classes during the day. Part-time job in the evening. Late-night convenience store runs when I forgot to buy food. I got used to the sound of the elevator groaning up and down. It was like the building's heartbeat. The only thing that felt a little off was the corridor above me. Sometimes, late at night, when I was lying in bed scrolling through my phone, I would hear soft footsteps overhead. Not walking from room to room. Not the irregular thumps of someone living life. Just a slow, steady pacing. Back and forth. Back and forth. As if someone was walking the length of a hallway over and over. I told myself it was the neighbor on the 5th floor. Even though that didn't really match the position of the sound. One day, I got into the elevator with a delivery guy. He was around my age. Wearing a cap with his company's logo and carrying a stack of cardboard boxes. He squinted at the panel. Where's 4? He muttered in Japanese. There is number 4, I said. They skipped it. It's bad luck. He made a face. Yeah, but I have a package for room 402. He pulled out his phone. Checked the address again. Then frowned. Weird. There's a name and everything. He took a photo of the blank spot where 4 should have been and sighed. Guess I'll call the office. As the elevator doors opened on 3, he stepped out with me. You live here? He asked. Yeah. 302. Huh. Well, if some ghost asks you for its package, tell it I tried. He laughed and headed for the stairs. I laughed too. But it didn't feel funny. That night, the footsteps above my ceiling sounded louder. The first time I saw the 4F button, I thought I was just tired. I'd been working a late shift at the convenience store. By the time I got home, it was 12:30 a.m. The lobby was empty. Lit by a single fluorescent tube that flickered at the edges. I pushed the button to call the elevator and waited. The doors opened with their usual sigh. I stepped in, turned around, and pressed 3. Then I froze. Between the 3 and the 5, where the blank plate had always been, was a button. 4. The number glowed faintly, even though I hadn't touched it. My first thought was stupidly ordinary. Oh, they must have fixed it. My finger hovered over it. I don't know why. Curiosity, I guess. Or the part of my brain that grew up loving urban legends and creepy stories. You know that feeling when you're standing somewhere high, and a tiny voice whispers, "What if you jump?" It felt like that. Before I could decide, the elevator lurched into motion. The light 4-3 lit up. The 4F buttons glowed dimmed slightly. As if disappointed. The doors opened on my floor. I stepped out. Heart beating too fast for no reason. The hallway was empty. Yellow light. Peeling wallpaper. Door numbers. Everything normal. But as the elevator doors closed behind me, I heard a soft ding from inside. Like a button being pressed. The next night, I checked the panel deliberately. Number 4. Just the blank plate again. I told myself I had imagined it. Maybe my brain filled in the gap out of habit. Maybe I had been half asleep. Then, a week later, I came home even later. Around 2 a.m. The elevator doors slid open. I stepped in. The 4F button was back. This time, it was brighter. Not as bright as the others, but enough to be clearly visible in the dim elevator. My stomach tightened. I pressed 3. The elevator began to move. Halfway up, it shuddered. The light for 3 flickered. Then went out. The elevator slowed. And stopped. The light above the door changed. 4. The doors slid open. The hallway outside was dark. Not completely. There was a weak, reddish emergency light at the far end. But dark enough that I couldn't see the floor clearly. The air was different, too. Too still. Too heavy. Like the inside of a closed closet. I stayed where I was. 1 foot in the elevator. Hand still hovering near the panel. This is stupid, I thought. It's just some kind of service floor. But there were doorways. I could see the outlines of apartment doors on both sides of the corridor. They looked just like the ones on my floor. Same cheap metal. Same little mail slots. Only the numbers were wrong. There were no numbers. Just blank squares where the plates should have been. From somewhere down the hall, I heard it. Footsteps. Soft and slow. Bare feet on linoleum. They were coming closer. But not in a straight line. More like pacing. Back and forth. Back and forth. Exactly like the sound I'd been hearing above my bed. My skin crawled. I reached for the "door close" button. It didn't respond. The panel was dark. All the buttons, including 3 and 5, were dead. Only the 4F light glowed softly above the door. A voice spoke from the hallway. "You're early." It was quiet. Almost polite. But it carried clearly in the still air. Every muscle in my body locked. The voice was close. Just beyond the edge of the elevator's light. "I was expecting you later," it said. "You usually lie in bed for hours first." My throat was dry. "Who's there?" I managed. There was a pause. I heard a faint, wet sound. Like someone dragging their fingers along the wall. "I'm your neighbor," the voice said. From upstairs. My mind supplied an image of room 402. Of a delivery guy squinting at a label that supposedly didn't exist. "There is no 4th floor," I said. Because that's what the landlord had told me. And my brain had nothing else to hold on to. Something moved just outside the door. Not a full step. Just a shift. Like someone turning their head. "That's rude," the voice said softly. "I've been walking above you for months. You never say hello." The footsteps resumed. Slow. Unhurried. "But I understand, it continued. You pretend not to hear. You put in your earphones. You tell yourself it's the 5th floor. I had done exactly that. The voice sounded almost amused. You don't like thinking about what's directly above you. Or what used to be. The word used hung in the air like a bad smell. I pressed the buttons again. Hard enough that my finger hurt. Nothing. The hallway seemed to lean closer. My eyes slowly adjusted, picking out more details. The walls were wrong. They looked the same shape as my floor's hallway. But the wallpaper was older. Stained. Bubbling in some places as if something damp was pushing from beneath. The ceiling lights were off. But their covers were cracked. Full of dark shapes that might have been dead insects. Or something else. There was a shape on the floor near one of the doors. A small pile of something. Clothes, maybe. I didn't want to look at it too closely. The footsteps stopped. Very close now. Just beyond the invisible line where the elevator's interior ended and the hallway began. You pressed the button, the voice said. That's all it takes. Curiosity is permission. A pale shape appeared at the edge of the doorway. A bare foot. Then another. They were the same size as mine. Maybe a little smaller. Toes slightly curled. As if gripping the floor. I stared straight ahead. Refusing to let my gaze travel upward. Do you know why they say there's no 4th floor? The voice asked. It's not because it doesn't exist. It's because they don't want to admit it exists. The air behind me felt suddenly crowded. Like the elevator was full of people. Breathing softly. Watching silently. Someone like you lived directly above you once, the voice continued. Student. Alone. Listened to the footsteps above them. Pretended not to hear. I clenched my jaw. Stop, I said. What do you want? The voice answered instantly. I want you to know I'm here. Another footstep. Something cold brushed the tip of my shoe. And that once you've seen this floor, you don't go back to pretending. I don't know what would have happened if the elevator hadn't moved then. Maybe nothing. Maybe something I don't have words for. All I know is that, just as the unseen figure leaned forward, just as the breath in front of me got so cold it hurt my teeth, the panel beeped. The light for 3 flickered back on. The doors began to close. For a moment, something pressed against them from the outside. The metal shuddered. Groaned. A pale shape. Maybe a hand. Maybe a face. Smudged the glass. Then it was gone. The doors shut. The elevator dropped slightly. Then rose again. And opened on the 3rd floor like nothing had happened. The hallway looked the way it always did. Yellow light. Faint smell of cleaning solution. Doors with their neat little room numbers. I stumbled out. Legs shaking. As the doors began to close behind me, I heard one last thing from inside the shaft. Not a voice. Not footsteps. Just a slow, patient dragging sound. As if someone were walking in circles on a floor that didn't officially exist. I didn't sleep that night. In the morning, I went straight to the landlord's office. She looked up sharply as I entered. Something wrong with the room? She asked. The elevator stopped on 4, I blurted. Last night. Around 2 a.m. She went very still. Did you get out? She asked. No. I stayed inside. She stared at me for a long moment. Searching my face. As if trying to decide whether to believe me. Then she exhaled. Good, she said. Don't ever step out on that floor. What is it? I asked. Voice shaking. Who lives there? She hesitated. No one, she said finally. Not anymore. I almost laughed. Then who? The words stuck in my throat. She looked tired. Older than she had 2 minutes ago. A few years ago, she said quietly. We had a tenant on 402. Young man. Student. People complained about the noise above him. Footsteps at night. Pacing. He always said, that's impossible, I'm on the top floor. She folded her hands on the desk. One day, he took the elevator. And it opened on 4F. He got out. She didn't need to say the rest. We never found him, she finished anyway. But after that, sometimes people heard him walking above them. Even though their apartments were empty above. She rubbed her eyes. We sealed the 4F doors. Took the button off the elevator. Told everyone there was no 4th floor. That was easier than telling them the truth. Then why did the button appear again? I asked. She looked at me almost sadly. Buildings remember, she said. Elevators remember. So do the people who get lost between floors. Sometimes, when someone is lonely enough. Or curious enough. Her gaze sharpened. You've been listening to the footsteps at night, haven't you? I didn't answer. She didn't need me to. If you want my advice, she said. Don't ride the elevator after midnight. Take the stairs. And if you ever see the 4F button again, pretend you don't. I wish that had been the end of it. But sometimes, when I come home late from my shift, the elevator doors open. And I see my reflection in the metal panel. For a second. There are always 7 buttons. B1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, R. I blink. And 4 is gone. The blank plate sits there. Smooth and untouched. From somewhere above. Soft footsteps pace back and forth. And every time I hear them, I think about what the voice said. Once you've seen this floor, you don't go back to pretending. So if you ever visit Japan, and stay in a tall building, and you notice the number 4 is missing, don't go looking for it. Because the 4th floor might be looking for you.